From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman Congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, and I believe in America. I believe in you. And most importantly, I believe that our greatest days as a nation are still ahead of us. You know, each week we take you behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, the legislation, and most of all, to meet the fantastic people that I get the privilege and honor of working with each day here on Capitol Hill. They're helping shape our great nation, and one of those lawmakers is Pat Fallon. Pat's a sophomore member. He represents Texas's 4th District up just north of Dallas, that Plano, Frisco, part of McKinney area up there. Before coming to Congress, Pat enjoyed a decades-long successful entrepreneurial career. He founded over a dozen successful apparel companies. Before that, Pat won a national championship at Notre Dame under legendary head coach Lou Holtz. Once he left football in Notre Dame, Pat commissioned to the United States Air Force. He then went on to complete the World Marathon Challenge. Now, that's a race where competitors attempt to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. On January 29th, 2016, he became just the 15th person in the world to do so. He was also the first and still only person to finish the World Marathon Challenge with no previous marathon experience. That's a marathon intro, but here he is. Pat Fallon. Pat, good to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Mark. I think my knee still hurt from.
What possessed you to do that?
Well, it's a really neat story. There was a little boy named Johnny Wade from Illinois who was fighting brain cancer, and it only had a 5% survivability, 1-year survivability. He was very brave, and to be quite frank, I didn't want to even learn about the story because I had young boys about his age.
Right.
And a friend of mine in my neighborhood kept posting his story, reposting his mom's journey. And come to find out, he was asked by his mother in October of 2015 if he could have one wish, what would it be? This is after about 36 surgeries, radiation, going through all that, fighting for his life. And you would think, because you or I would probably say, to get better.
Right.
And he said, I just wish, Mommy, that no other child ever has to get cancer.
Wow.
So it was just so inspirational that I decided I had to do something, and I didn't know what that was. And I had seen this thing about the World Marathon Challenge, and I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And I thought, what if somebody like me did that? It would give him and his twin brother, who was healthy physically, a distraction, and we could raise money and awareness for pediatric cancer research. And so that's how it all began. And I ended up losing a whole bunch of weight and trained for 3 months and went ahead and flew out to Antarctica and started the journey. And
Antarctica.
that's all 7 continents. So that's where you started it. Yeah.
And you work your way up from there?
You go, we went to Antarctica, like deep in Antarctica, about 600 miles from the South Pole. No life. If the wind's not blowing, there's no sound. 24-hour sun. It was in January. And so we went there, and then Punta Arenas, Chile, the southernmost city in the world. So it is a weird deal when you're in the southernmost city in the world and you get on an aircraft and you fly 4.5 hours south.
Wow.
That's bizarre. That was really weird.
Did you self-fund this, or did you raise money?
No,
along the way?
I self-funded it, and then any donations we received went to pediatric cancer research, 100% of it. And we were able to be a small part of raising a few $1 million over the course of the next 6 years or so with the Wade family. And Johnny lost his battle right before I went to start the race. I wasn't even sure if I should go, but his mother insisted. She said that's what he wanted you to do, and he was excited about it. He thought you were crazy.
And how long did it take you to do all the marathons?
My slowest one was the first. Well,
No, not your time for a marathon, but to complete the series.
It was a week.
A
One
week?
Yeah, 168 inside of 168 hours. Yeah. So Punta Arenas.
How do you train for something like that?
What I did was, there's training programs for marathons, right?
Yeah.
Out there. But for one, and they all tell you, once you're done with your marathon, don't run another one for 4 months. Don't fly for 24 hours, and make sure you eat and rest. And we did the exact opposite of all that. We got immediately on an airplane. We weren't eating a lot. We weren't sleeping almost at all. I slept 18 hours that week. It was tough.
Did you have a doctor with you?
No. My wife thought I was going to die. She made me update my will.
And your life insurance.
Yes.
Like any good wife would.
But we went from Antarctica to Punta Arenas, Chile. Then we went to Miami, Madrid. This is all the next day. And then we went to Marrakesh, Morocco, Dubai, and then Sydney, Australia was the last one. That was my fastest one.
Was there a point at any of those where you thought you weren't going to be able to finish?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
How did you push yourself through that?
Thinking about him. thinking about Johnny, and the fact that he was so brave for he's an 8-year-old kid. And to be that brave, it was just remarkable. And he was such an inspiration. Truly. And to be that selfless and to have the wisdom beyond your years to think about your impact, what your life will, the impact that your life will have on others. And then I got to see the best of humanity for 4 months because so many people were coming out of the woodwork to donate and be supportive. We had donations of, I think, upwards of $50,000 all the way down to $5, kind of a widow's mite. It was really something to behold.
You're on the House Oversight Committee, right?
Yes, sir.
You guys are dealing with this Hunter Biden.
I just left the hearing,
stuff.
and I'm going right back to the hearing. And
What's going on with that? Tell the American people, our listeners, what is going on with this Biden crime family?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something, Mark. This is not political revenge. This is not some kind of witch hunt, which is the media and a lot of pretty much all the Democrats claim it to be. And it's so much different. It's like 180 degrees different from the Russian hoax because this is all very real. So you have to decide for yourself what's more likely, right? And I'll just give you a couple, for instances, some indisputable facts. In 2019, then candidate Joe Biden said, when asked about his son's business dealings, he said, I don't know what my son did with his business dealings. I don't know any of his business associates.
He told Peter Ducey that.
Yeah. And I've never met him. That was a bold-faced lie. He'd met with dozens, if not scores, of Hunter's as business associates. They had co-located offices once he got out of the vice presidency. So he built this firewall, and it was weird and odd. And he did it because he wanted to be elected president. Okay, but let's go a step further. Let's think about back in 2015 and 16. Where was Biden's mindset? He didn't think he'd ever run for office again. Hillary Clinton was going to be the president of the United States for 8 years, meaning that the next competitive race would have been in 2024 when Joe Biden would be, I don't know, how old is he now, 80? So he'd be 82 years old. You don't run for president the first time at 82. No one's ever done that before, okay? Reagan had a lot of trouble, and he was 68.
So he was setting up his post-government career with all this money coming in from no telling who.
They were grabbing with both hands, and that's why they were sloppy. Because they didn't think they were going to come back. See, when he did come back, when they started rumblings, when Hillary lost, they're like, holy hockey, we got something going on maybe in 2020. Oops. That's number one. Okay. So then there's something called a suspicious activity report.
Right.
And this is generated by financial institutions. They have to do it by law if they suspect fraud, money laundering, sexual trafficking, things of that nature. Most Americans are going to go through their whole lives never having generated one. Okay? The Biden family had generated something to the tune of 170 of these things. Okay, so that's odd, right? Well, what about when they get caught with some of these funds from upwards? We just had testimony from the IRS whistleblower that said they can account, at least right now, for $17 million of payments from foreign nationals to the Biden family.
What countries?
Romania, Ukraine, China, Chinese Communist Party. No big deal.
No big deal.
Is the president compromised or not? I mean, we need to know this. And he's taken quite a soft stance on China. He says he's going to confront them boldly, and then he doesn't even talk about fentanyl when he meets with Xi.
Well, he claims to be great friends with Xi. They've met 60 times or some exaggerated number.
Yeah. But, so when they get caught, like, for instance, Hunter Biden in one instance was caught taking about several $100,000. It was then they said he didn't, and then when they had irrefutable proof he did, he said, well, that was just seed money. Who pockets seed money? I'm a business guy. You're a business guy. Seed money is your lifeblood to make sure the business works. You don't put it in your pocket and stow it away. That's what he did, right? So why, as a businessman, why do you set up 20 shell companies? Who does that? Because they're always complicated financial transactions because they were trying to hide the source of those funds. Now, let's real quickly talk about the 1023, which is the document that we didn't even know about, by the way, for 2 years until we got into the majority. And this is what happens when an informant will talk to the FBI. Right?
They fill out a form called a 1023.
Bingo. And that 1023 might say, I was abducted by Martians, or it could say, I have knowledge of criminal wrongdoing. It can be very credible, right? So I don't know the guy. We don't know the identity of the person that is the FBI informant. But we do know, according to the FBI, this person is highly credible and reliable. They've worked with him for over 10 years. Everything he's always told them has checked out, and they've paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what we know. Okay, that's not in dispute. So this fella, I read the 1023, he meets with the Burisma CEO, And the Burisma CEO tells him, this back in 2015, I want to start an energy company in America. I want your advice. And he said, you know what my advice is? Clear up this investigation, this corruption investigation on you. So hire some guy for 50 grand in Ukraine and work that out. He goes, hey, no. You know who's on my board? The guy said, I don't know who's on your board. Hunter Biden, the vice president's son. He goes, okay, yeah, they're going to make it all go away. He's like, are you crazy? Don't deal with these people. The Bidens, he meant. Hire a prosecutor and take care of business. He goes, no. They're going to make it all go away. It's going to be okay. I remember. That's how I remembered it. Okay, go away. He said, I pay him $50,000 a month, and I paid him and his dad $5 million each. And the informant says, are you crazy? Don't deal with these people.
Pat, we're going to pick that up when we come back. We got to take a little break. This is a fascinating story about the Biden crime family and the president of the United States possibly being compromised to communist China. Stay with us. More with Mark Offers America. Welcome back, everyone, to Mark Offers America, where we give you a behind-the-scenes look at Washington and let you meet some of the great people helping shape our great nation. Today, we're talking with Pat Fallon from Texas. He's on the Oversight Committee. They're in the middle of these hearings right now on Hunter Biden and the corruption, this IRS whistleblower that's come forward. And we want to pick up the conversation where we left off, talking about Burisma and Hunter Biden being on the board, and the Biden family getting really, millions of dollars?
Yes.
From Ukraine?
Listen, so picking that back up, the informant says that the Burisma CEO, by the way, why would he confidentially lie? This is a confidential conversation he's having, asking this guy for advice about what he should do. And then he admits that he has paid the Bidens $10 million, $5 each, and then $50,000 a month for Hunter. And he said they're going to make the investigation into corruption with Burisma. He's going to make it go away. What happened? Joe Biden did make it go away. Literally flew to Ukraine. Because why would he be so interested in Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor in Ukraine, who was investigating a company his son happens to sit on the board?
Is this the clip where we see him on the air telling him that he better take care of this and fire this guy?
Yes.
Or they're not getting any help?
Yeah, they're not going to get. He said to the Ukrainians, if you don't fire Viktor Shokin, you're not getting $1 billion. And then claimed that Viktor Shokin himself was corrupt.
And kind of laughed about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he said, you know what they did? They fired that prosecutor, and then we gave him the $1 billion. To this day, Burisma has never been prosecuted, never been investigated since. So exactly what the 1023 said checked out perfectly. Also, he said he called Joe Biden the big guy. That terminology exactly. You know who else said that was the big guy? Tony Bobulinski, an American that never met, Nikolai Zlochevsky, who we're talking about here.
That interview came out on Fox in 2020 in October. I watched it on Tucker Carlson. I was appalled that no one else in the media, including the TV station that I worked with, was running with this story. But it seemed so far-fetched, I guess people didn't believe that there was any veracity to it. And yet it turned out to be exactly true. Had the American people heard the truth on this, Donald Trump would still be president.
There's no doubt about it, and that's why they had to cover it up. And so let's just think about this for a second. If what Zlochevsky told the informant is true, that he bribed the Bidens $5 million each, we're talking about the largest political scandal in American history. He claims that he has tapes of conversations, 15 with Hunter, 2 with Joe, about the payments, and he paid them in a very complicated way, but he knows he could show you exactly how he did it. Okay, he says if you try to do it yourself, and it would take 10 years to unravel. And then nothing happens. The FBI, because there's two things. There's the corruption itself, and then there's the cover-up of the corruption. The FBI puts it in a sub-file, and it restricts it. So the agents that actually interview the informant can access it. 99.9% of the FBI agents can't. So it never came up when they were investigating. They couldn't even find it. They didn't know the existence of the 1023. So it was essentially worthless. And somebody did that to protect the Bidens at every turn. The whistleblowers are upstairs right now in this building talking about, and they're highly credible. One of them is a gay Democrat. And he's not out to get the Bidens. You know what he's out to get? The truth. And Jamie Raskin lies and says, he's the ranking member of Oversight, and says that there was nothing untoward going on, and this was a typical investigation. In fact, I had notes on it. He said it was All normal stuff, and there's no evidence Hunter Biden received preferential treatment. Those are direct quotes. And then the whistleblowers testify to the exact opposite, that there was, at every turn, there was preferential treatment, and it was abnormal.
What's going to come out of all this? Is the American people going to care? Is anything going to be done about it? Because, look, this whole Russian hoax thing, nothing was done about that, and that being a big lie that basically media, law enforcement colluded basically with the Democrat Party to get Joe Biden, anybody but Trump really, into office.
I think that's a fair question, and it is frustrating at times. But I can tell you this, if we stop and move on, nothing will ever happen. Justice will not be served. We could continue, and we could continue digging. We could continue to have hearings, and maybe nothing happens. But maybe something does. For instance, with the 1023, if we didn't continue to press the FBI, we would have never known about it. Now we do. If we didn't continue to press the Treasury on access to the SARS, the suspicious activity reports, we would have known about them. And incidentally, members of Congress are always granted access. Well, we were until we asked about this for 2 years. We only got it because then we could subpoena them.
And then only under threat of impeachment or other.
Yeah. What the Biden strategy is very clear is to delay. Hunter's already in the clear for his violations.
He got a sweetheart deal.
Well, not only that, but in 2014 and 15, the statute of limitations has run out. And they recommended, these two whistleblowers upstairs just testified that they recommended felony charges, and all the prosecutors and all the investigators were in agreement. So what happened? They don't know. They don't understand why they didn't move forward.
Let me ask you a deeper question, because you and I serve on House Armed Services together. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin had a big news conference yesterday. They're freeing up another $1.3 billion to go to Ukraine. Look, this war with Ukraine never should have happened. It never would have happened had Trump still been in office. We look weak on the world stage. Putin is a bully, and bullies like weakness. That's when they take advantage of people. So my question to you is, does this payout from Ukraine in any way, in your mind, play into our support for Zelensky and Ukraine?
Well, that's just it. It could. We don't know what else, what other payments may have been made. If you're willing, you're either honest or you're not, right? I mean, you're either going to take a bribe or you're not. And if you take bribes and your inducements, your credibility is shot. So we don't know if the president is compromised. I asked President Trump directly. We're in a room with just a few other members of Congress up in New Jersey in Bedminster, and I said to him, Mr. President, I noticed something, that in 2008, Vladimir Putin stole 2 provinces from Georgia under George W. Bush. And then in 2014, of course, took all of Crimea under Obama, and then full-scale invasion under Biden. But the 4 years you were in office, he didn't do anything. Why is that? And President Trump, he's here in the studio, but I told him, I said, Vladimir, you cannot invade Ukraine. You can't do it. Okay, I know about the Iron Dome in Moscow. I'd have to lap it off and come for you, Vlad. And I don't want to do that. I don't. I think, and he says to me, then he looks at me and goes, Bat, I think you believe me, like 5%. Okay. Direct quote. And then he looked at me, then he got very serious and he said, if he had invaded, and I did tell him not to, but he said I would use every tool at my disposal. He said, Pat, I would have unleashed the American energy sector like you'd never seen before. We had been producing so much natural gas. And
that was
so
before
much
they
oil.
had their pipeline, though, to Germany.
Right. Well, he was fighting Nord Stream 2, where Joe Biden greenlighted it, which was a huge mistake, and then he had to backtrack it and then fight it.
Right.
So, again, a Trump policy that was working and then Joe Biden eventually adopted. But what he said was, when you unleash the American energy sector like that and flood the market, the price of oil goes down to such a degree that Vladimir Putin can't fund his war. And Vladimir Putin knew that. And he knew Trump projected strength, and he was afraid of him.
When's the last time you talked to President Trump?
Oh, it's been a few months now.
What do you think of that whole situation? Another possible indictment around January 6th that could be coming?
The prosecutors themselves are fortunately eroding their own credibility. I mean, you have to tread very lightly when you're talking about any kind of criminal charges with any former president, because then it's a slippery slope from a republic to a banana republic. And is it really, it has to be I think anyway, the standard should be smoking gun, highly criminal. Not, you had a box of documents here or something like that. And that goes for the Bidens, Obamas, Trumps, the Bushes, whatever. direct bribery, like a Spiro Agnew type thing, yeah, you got to go after him. And they
Right.
did. Nixon lying and obstructing justice, you have to go after him. And he did. And this is what I find ironic about the Democrats. They'll always say, there's no evidence whatsoever, Jamie Raskin just said it, of Joe Biden's direct involvement with any of this. Well, was there any evidence of direct involvement with Richard Nixon and Watergate at first? No.
No.
That stuff started in the summer of 72. He resigned in August of 74. It took 2.5 years to unravel that ball of yarn. It takes time. We've been at this for 6 months. So it's going to take some time to unravel the ball.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish we had another
That
hour to
went quick.
talk. I know.
Hello,
You want-
Missouri. You got a great congressman, by the way.
Thank you.
He's a great American. And we love America. There's no way. It's just America.
Pat, thank you for joining us. Folks, thank you so much for spending this time with us for Mark Alford's America. Hey, we'll talk again next week. Until then, remember, I believe in you. I believe the best days are still ahead of us. And yes, I believe in America.